So I'm on the BJJ Fanatics website, and I see 3 new videos by some guy named Thomas Radzinski. You familiar with that guy at all?
Nope, absolutely not.
No? Well, he's got some good stuff. Three brand new videos. They're getting amazing reviews, which is good to see as well. But you got to tell us about them real quick?
Yeah, I had, you guys already know, but I had opportunity to go to Boston, shoot 3 more instructionals, 1 on butterfly hook, complete guide for butterfly hook, 2 wrap, lapel, and submit them, and 3 we have taking the back. It's particularly designed for guys for over 40 because there's no climbing involved. All the back takes are on the ground. Very, very full and effective system. So dip into it. I'm really hoping that this is going to help your jiu-jitsu and really take it to the next level.
BJJfanatics.com. Just search ROZDZ. We have all had that situation where after class is when we want to ask a question. And Thomas, a lot of those questions you've already answered, right, at Ask a Black Belt.
Yeah, it's another podcast that I'm running. It's on podcast, all podcast platforms, plus on YouTube. You can find it anywhere. Just search for my name. Search for Ask a Black Belt. At this point, over 100 episodes, different questions, jiu-jitsu, life-related, but something that everybody comes across, and often these questions sink in our mind, but we don't ask for whatever reason. So if that benefits you, go there, listen. It actually might help your jiu-jitsu, might help your life as well. And if you have any questions, find me on Instagram and drop me a line. I'll be happy to answer your question and mention your name during the episode.
Welcome to Raw Radio.
And we are live.
Wait, why do you clap? Do we need to clap anymore?
No, but it's a habit. It makes a good show.
Well, only if people hear it.
Well, true.
Well, they'll hear it this time. They hear it more often than not.
I know.
With our show.
There's
always something to talk about the clap. So,
we always talk about something before the clap, and the clap has to stay in.
Yes, it's here.
Listen, I am actually stoked about this because we tried having Professor Leo Vieira on the show over a year ago, if I'm not mistaken. It was a while.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. And he got a flu. He was sick. He couldn't talk. We had to reschedule. Then he was traveling. It was insane. And I've been chasing him for a while. And finally, he got back from his travels and he made time for us. And we just finished that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am stoked.
Yeah. Great conversation. Great guy. And spreading a message that he's spreading, I think it goes beyond just jiu-jitsu, which is great. And I think he's the type of person I like to have on the show, so I was super excited that we were finally going to be able to do it, and feeling great about it post interview too. So good stuff.
Yeah, like listen, when I was, and I said this on the show, and by now I'm pretty transparent about how I feel about some of these guests and what we do and what we have, who we talk to, and Leo is one of those guys that I looked up to when I was a white and blue belt. Like, he got his black belt in '96, which is way before I started, right? But when he was at a peak of his performance, that's when I was just coming up. I was dipping my toes. So Leo Vieira came up multiple times. Matter of fact, as I was getting ready for this episode, doing my research and kind of putting thoughts together, I watched several videos of him and Hoyler and controversial fight, the decision, the referee decision, and there's a bunch of them on YouTube. So and that's kind of the beauty behind today's world. Like, even these things that took place, these matches that took place 2 decades ago, they are available. You can, if you dig deep and hard enough, you can actually find them, and they are not HD or none of that stuff, but it's
sometimes you can't tell who's who until their arm gets raised.
You know what's funny? Funny. So, like, specifically talking about Leo Vieira versus Hoyle Gracie, when you look at that match, you don't know who is who because the camera is so far away that you can't tell. You have to look at the patches. And I'm not even going to tell you which one were white and which one were blue. You guys can look it up. Google, YouTube it. Search on YouTube and you're going to find, but you'll see they look very similar to each other. Not offending anybody here, but from far away, they really do. And it's hard to tell who is who until the close-ups take place. And, but anyway, that's
why I always appreciate Comprito.
Shout out to Comprito. You can't miss Comprito. You go to IBJ, you go anywhere, and you see a green hair, there's Comprito. Comprito's in the house. Anyway, but one of the big things that you mentioned after the episode that made an impact on you or you gravitate towards was balance. Why do you think life is so unbalanced today?
It's hard to see what's truly important, I think. So you're always grasping or gravitating towards the things that maybe aren't as important in the long run, and things get out of whack. I think it's simple. I think it's pretty simple, but it's hard. It's hard to navigate. It's always easier to see in retrospect, I guess. But while you're living in that moment, it's very easy to let things get out of whack, get out of balance. You're chasing the wrong thing. And that starts propagating more and more. And then, the next thing you know, everything's out of whack.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's very easy with all the distraction points that we have today.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So how do we keep it in balance?
I think you have to find you have to look at the long game, I think. Look at what's important to you overall rather than right now. Because right now, the important thing could be, for some reason right now I'm kind of looking through like my daughter's eyes, who's 11, and what's important to her right now in the grand scheme of things doesn't matter, but to her, because of her maturity level, her age, everything, it's the most important thing in the world. Having a little bit of freedom, having being able to make her own decision about something. It's monumental, but in the grand scheme of things, over time it may not be so. And I'm getting off track here, but I think that's for me anyway. It's always what's the outcome down the road look like, and is that what I want it to be? And if I make these choices now, what's going to get me to where I want to be? Rather than giving me instant gratification or getting me the win, so to speak. And I'm not talking about like on the mats or anything. I'm talking about like in a dispute, in an argument, in a discussion, in a Facebook post, whatever.
But it doesn't even have to be negative. We could look at it as a positive. Like what's the goal for you for next week, or what's the goal for you next month, or what's the goal for you next year?
Sure.
End of the year is coming. I mean, 99% of people are going to set New Year resolutions, which they're going to give up at January 15th, and yet nobody's thinking where are we going to be, or where would you like to be end of 24, not end of this year, end of 24. Like nobody's looking ahead that far out. At least I feel like nobody is.
Well, I know, resolutions are resolutions. I think that
resolutions are bullshit. That's what I'm going to say. That right up there.
Okay. There you go. But I don't know. We're gonna go off on that.
But I think that's part of the balance. Look, if we setting a resolution which we are very likely to give up, that's not a balance. That's hills and valleys. We're going into extremes. I'm going to lose 20 pounds by end of January because New Year is here. If you want to lose 20 pounds, start today. It's not even December. That means you are a month ahead. That means you don't have to lose 20 pounds. Probably you have to lose 15 or maybe 12 or maybe 10 or maybe less. Like incorporate this into your life. Incorporate this as part of what you do on daily basis. Why do we have to go for these extremes? Well, I assume why, because it's appealing and it's an extreme goal and we want to achieve it. But
we talk about goals all the time. I don't want to get off onto that tangent, but it's because we don't know how to set goals.
Right.
So, and I don't think we know how to find balance either without really stopping and thinking about it. What is if I make this choice or if I head down this road, what does that mean in the long run. And it could be anything. There, people talk about work-life balance, right? So I know people that work an insane amount of time, and they don't make a ton of money, so they work more to bring more in, and then they don't have a family life. Where's the balance in that? Or people who, like in this country, people bust their asses all year to take that 1 week out of 52 to find some sort of satisfaction or to get away from it all, or where I think if you get away from it all a little more often, and I'm not even talking about going on vacation, I'm talking about putting the phone down, reaching out to see what's important to somebody else,
balance.
Yeah, you're gonna find more balance. So
I've read this cool story recently, actually, about American fishermen. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but a fisherman gets on a boat overseas, and he witnesses a visitor from America gets on a boat, on a fishing boat overseas, and he was like, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm a fisherman. I fish. And it's like, "Well, how much do you fish?" And I was like, I just fish enough to feed my family, and I'm gonna finish this, and I'm gonna go and spend time with my family. And he's like, "Well, that's a silly idea. You should spend more time fishing. That way, over the next 20 years, you can really establish, business, and you can be really, really successful." And he goes like, "Well, why would I do that?" "Well, because if you have more fish, that means that you can sell them at the market, and then you can buy a second boat, and then you can hire people that can fish for you, and you can have more profit." "Well, why do I care about this?" "Well, because if you have more profit, now you can outsource everything, and you can do all the post-production, and then now you're going to have a real company with a whole, now you're not only fishing, but you're actually doing all the selling and everything, and your profit margins by far higher." And he goes like, "Well, why do I care about this?" "Because at that point, when you're 55, you can retire and you can spend more time with family." And how ironic that was the goal from the very beginning.
Right. Yeah.
And that's kind of that balance that we are referring to, and what Leo was talking about. Sometimes, and I listen, I'm guilty as charged of all this. That's one of the big things that I struggle with. Work-life balance. I don't even know if such a thing exists, but we do chase it. At which point you give it up, at which point you let things go, at which point the time is more important than not having time, at which point hanging out with your friends or having smiles or seeing your kids grow up is more important than some of the big goals that we are chasing.
Well, and if you retire at 55, which is, not that far away from
No,
you,
it's not.
but in the 10, 12 years it takes you to get there, 8 years, somewhere around that, 8 to 12 years it's going to take you to get there.
Keep counting.
Yeah. And you do not see,
you're wrong, but keep
you
counting.
don't see your kids
Yeah.
in those years.
Yeah.
When it's time to see them and they're teenagers and young adults, and you're like, okay, now we can spend all this time together. Guess what? They're going to have a different agenda. They're not going to remember you being there, and they're not going to appreciate. Well, there's nothing to appreciate.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, this is part of this life, I think, that we do live in, that we surround ourselves in, and that quote unquote balance is so important. Yet, it is up to us to establish, because I think culturally, as this country, as what we find ourselves in, the community is very driven to chase the dollar, chase the next shiny thing, get busy, buy a new car, buy a new house, and continue chasing the things. And there's, again, nothing wrong with that, but what are we giving up? That's the big question.
Well, and why are we chasing it?
And why we chase? Absolutely.
Why are you chasing it? Are you chasing it because of outside influence? Because you've been told to chase it?
But even if
you look at your story just a minute ago, right? He's chasing all that and building that business and doing all that for what? For what? And oftentimes in this country, you do that, you chase, you build, you work, you're doing it for somebody else.
Yeah.
They're seeing the profits. They're spending time with their family. They're buying a second car because of the work you're doing.
Yeah.
So, you got to ask yourself why, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it boils down to, right? The big why. Why do we do things? But keep it in balance, I would say.
All right.
Okay,
Well,
I assume you got a text message from somebody.
No, I'm coloring.
Oh.
I'm coloring in the logo on my notebook. Instead of doodling, I color it in while you're talking. I'm listening, but I have to be doing something with my hands, so I color in all the little letters.
Do you have like
Thousands of notebooks.
no like you
What?
can't focus on somebody listening while they're talking?
No. I'll have to find the balance.
There you go.
No, I did not get a text message. I think-
Typically, when I see you giggling during the show, that means you got a text message
Oh,
from
I'm usually
somebody.
laughing at you. Laughing at what you're saying, but it seemed like you really wanted to end it there, right there, and I didn't give it to you, so I apologize.
Well, there you go. There was no balance on this show.
No.
It's only extremes.
Yeah. All right, I'll see you soon.
Later.
Thank you for listening to Raw Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.